Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 313 and 314 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. The capital city was right in front of their eyes, and they could see numerous divine arts practitioners expanding the city by renovating the city walls. The divine arts practitioners built the city wall to be very high, and numerous divine arts practitioners marked runes of defense with beasts' blood on the city walls. Qin Mu came to the bottom of the city and asked around. The one in charge of renovating the city was a disciple of Heavenly Works Hall, and he said, not long ago, there was a half-god that transformed into a divine beast to attack the capital city, destroying a section of the city wall. As a result, Imperial Preceptor ordered us to expand the capital city and reinforce the walls, making them higher. Cult Master, please take a look at these runes that were designed by Formation Hall. Are they feasible? Qin Mu received the formation runes from him and examined them in detail. He saw that the formation was very intricate, and the design also had quite the sense of beauty. He said with a smile, not bad. Formation Hall's attainments in formation skills have already surpassed mine. I will still have to study for a period of time in order to catch up. Cult Master overpraises us. That disciple said with a smile, Spear God has been teaching formation skills in all parts of the Empire recently. Saint Woodcutter also sorted out numerous formation skills of the founding Emperor era and passed them to him. Spear God then taught them to us, and we benefited greatly. Blind was the spear god he was talking about. While Qin Mu had roamed around, blind, deaf, and the rest had been teaching what they had learned at the schools in all parts of the empire. In addition to Saint Woodcutter, Heavenly Teacher Fisherman, Dieur, and the rest imparting the knowledge to them, it was how eternal peace had developed at such a godly pace. According to the normal turn of events, eternal peace would have definitely prospered, but with the primordial realm breaking out of the seal, its resurface had resulted in eternal peace being broken up into pieces. And as of now, eternal peace's control over its original territories was very low. Not long later, they arrived at Imperial Preceptor's manor. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had just returned from the palace and was rather exhausted, so he was resting. Imperial Preceptor's wife went to get him and said to Qin Mu, my husband has been out quelling the rebellions, and just as he returned, the Emperor called him to the Imperial Palace for dozens of days. He is truly exhausted. Qin Mu said apologetically, I'm really sorry for disturbing junior brother's rest. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, second senior brother is courteous. The Empire is in danger now, and that's what I should do. The Emperor has also lost weight, and is only a bag of bones now. If the ruler is like that, what about me? You never visit without a reason, so there must be something urgent this time. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment and expressed his intention for coming. I'm here to consult you on how to have a baby. Imperial Preceptor's wife originally thought he wanted to talk about serious matters, so she blushed when she heard what Qin Mu said. She hurriedly got up to leave, but she suddenly turned back and led Gongsun Yang out as well. As she was leaving, she said with a smile, let the two men talk, we sisters can have a little chat. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor waited for them to leave before scolding furiously, the Empire is in danger, and you still have the mood to have a baby. Qin Mu, to think I respected you as my senior brother, how can you be so absurd? Qin Mu hurriedly explained himself. I have already had martial arts heavenly teacher destroy my divine bridge divine treasure, because I wanted to reopen the divine bridge divine treasure, and find a way for the people of eternal peace to solve the issue of having a broken divine bridge once and for all. The reason why I'm thinking of having a child is that I want to see if the seventh divine treasure that I open up can be inherited by our descendants and the later generation. If it can be inherited, the issue of the people of eternal peace having broken divine bridges can be completely solved. I've wronged you. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor rose and bowed to the ground. He said sincerely, I still thought that second senior brother was licentious. Never did I expect second senior brother to be the one truly thinking of the people of the world, carrying the weight of the world with righteousness etched into your bones. You took the initiative to destroy your divine bridge, divine treasure, but I don't have that boldness of yours. I'm sincerely convinced that you are worthy of being my senior brother. I thank you on behalf of the people of the world. Qin Mu hurriedly pulled him up and said with a smile, I don't deserve this. Junior brother, so how do I have a child? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was originally very serious, but now his face suddenly blushed, and he coughed repeatedly. He seemed to be troubled. Qin Mu said suspiciously, You know, but you don't want to tell me, you're indeed hiding it for yourself. It's not hiding it for myself, it's just not easy to say it out loud. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor hurriedly said, Even primary school scholars know. There are classes regarding this in the primary schools, just head over there and listen. Qin Mu shook his head and said, I have never been to primary school. When I left the Great Ruins, I went straight to the Imperial College. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor frowned. He looked left and right before saying with a low voice, Let me go fetch something, you will understand after seeing it. After he said that, he left in a hurry. After a moment, he came back in a fluster and took out a book from his sleeve. He stuffed it into Qin Mu's hands and said, I also didn't know about this originally, and I didn't know much about the affairs of men and women. After the emperor got me to marry, I was also at a loss, and so the emperor gave me this book. After reading it, I understood. Take it, it will definitely solve your doubts. Qin Mu looked at the cover of the book, and on it were these few words, Romantic Diary of the Capital City. When he flipped it open to take a look, inside were pictures instead, pictures of man and woman. The pictures could even move, and it showed that the path of painting was extremely superior. Not only had the person painted them vividly, but the painter had also achieved the first realm of the painting path as said by scholar, he was truly extraordinary. Qin Mu took a look and his face flushed. He hurriedly covered up the book. How can it be like this? How shameful. I don't want to have a child anymore. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, I also thought it was very shameful at first and even dirty, that it was an insult to sage. Afterward, when I tried it, it wasn't bad and was actually rather interesting. Qin Mu felt a pain in his heart and said in disdain, Junior brother, you have fallen. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor argued, saying, This is the natural order of a human relationship, how have I fallen? If you don't want it, then return to me. I'm not lending it to you anymore. Qin Mu was about to return it to him when he suddenly took it back. Let me take a look first. I need to judge these kinds of actions. This painting path seems familiar. Who is the author of Romantic Diary of the Capital City? His suspicions grew as he looked. He flipped to the title page and then to the end page, but he couldn't find the signature. These brush strokes, this kind of attainment in the painting path. Qin Mu's fury couldn't be contained as he stuttered, GG Grandpa Def, have you fallen to such an extent? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor coughed repeatedly. It's indeed the work of Heavenly Art Saint. Otherwise, I wouldn't have concealed it. The Emperor asked me for it back numerous times, and I said I had lost it, so I didn't return it to him. This is the only copy. Heavenly Art Saint only drew this one book, and it was when he was poor and in dire straits. Now that he's wealthy, he would be unwilling to draw another one. You need to return this to me after you're done. Qin Mu flipped through the book with a red face. His heart thumped furiously, and he hurriedly returned the Romantic Diary of the Capital City. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor carefully flattened the pages of the book one by one and stored it properly before asking, I've forgotten to ask you, which girl do you plan to have a child with? Qin Mu's mind was blown, and he stood there silently and in a daze. After a moment, he tried to say, I haven't thought about this problem. My mind has been on the seventh divine treasure during the past few months, and I've thought of 26 kinds of seventh divine treasure. In these 8 months, I've also sorted out 26 methods and plan to give all of them a try. My original plan was to have a child for each successful method. Now that I know it's not that simple, I'll need to find 26 women. Get out. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's face darkened, and he raised his finger to point at the door of the Imperial Preceptor's manor. Qin Mu mumbled, I'm your senior brother, how can you speak to me like this? Afu, come quickly and throw this rascal out. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said angrily, how licentious. How are you worthy of being my second senior brother? Qin Mu hurriedly said, let's just put the matter of having a child aside first. I have many things to do, and I truly have no time for children, it's also very troublesome. There's still one more thing I want to ask you about. Look at the halo behind my head, this is Mother Earth's blessing. Mother Earth wants me to revive her, so she blessed me. She even gave me an Earth Eon Dao fruit. Otherwise, I wouldn't have reached the life and death realm so quickly. Mother Earth's revival is no small matter. She's using these 2 items to supervise my movements, so she will find me again sooner or later. Help me take a look and see how we can break down this blessing from Mother Earth. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's face softened, and he carefully examined the halo behind his head. He had a grim expression as he looked over and over again. He paced to and fro after a long time and kept muttering non-stop. Suddenly, a sword light caused the whole room to shake as he stabbed at Qin Mu. Qin Mu stood there without moving, and he could only hear sounds of collision ringing out non-stop. Imperial Preceptor stabbed out countless swords in that instant, and every sword was wonderful. He stabbed precisely on his halo, and the tip of every sword light stabbed on the runes of the halo. In the next instant, his vertical and horizontal sword lights shook the entire courtyard, and it was as graceful as swimming dragons. However, the halo behind Qin Mu's head burst forth with all kinds of colorful lights, dyeing the halo in bright colors. The halo swirled continuously to block his sword lights. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor pulled back his sword, and the halo behind Qin Mu's head also stopped swirling. Mother Earth's blessing is extremely strong, it's also a method of protection. If you are able to execute the power of the blessing, it would be easy for you to block the attacks of a true god. Even heavenly gods might not be able to do anything to you. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor checked his divine sword and found small cracks on the tip of his sword. This kind of blessing is very useful, are you sure you want to erase it? Qin Mu nodded his head and said, the so-called blessing can also be a curse. Mother Earth is now heavily injured by heavenly teacher Zi Shi, but she will make a comeback sooner or later. If she captures me, I will have no choice but to revive her. After she's revived, wiping out eternal peace, crimson light, and founding emperor would be a piece of cake. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was silent for a long time. In that case, I will need teacher woodcutter, and all the wise people in eternal peace to come. I also need Granny Sai, she must be here. She is skilled in the runes of magnetism. They are all outside, so they need some time to hurry here. Qin Mu's spirit stirred slightly, and he said, is martial arts heavenly teacher in the capital city? Martial arts heavenly teacher had originally gone to South Sea to talk with Crimson Light Son of God. He was overawed and wouldn't rebel for the moment. Not long ago, he went to the prairie and said he was visiting Mahakala. Judging by the time, he should be back soon. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor sighed and said, there are also abnormal movements in the bottom of the East Sea, and the worlds in the sky above also have abnormal movements. The North Sea, the ice plains, and all kinds of ruins in the territory of eternal peace are also stirring. We have already broken contact with the Great Ruins and West Earth, and the teleportation gate constructed several months ago can at most protect 20 to 30 of our more important cities. There are so many matters to take care of, and I hate that I can't clone a billion of myself. Qin Mu's heart stirred, and he said, "Why don't you turn the capital city into a god city floating in the sky?" Turning the capital city into a god city can firstly be intimidation, and secondly, it can boost the confidence of the people of eternal peace. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, "I was over with His Majesty to discuss building a god city. It's just that the treasury is empty, and now that trade is being cut off, we don't have that many divine metals and divine materials to build a city in the sky." Qin Mu said with a smile, "There are numerous ruins that have appeared in the territory of eternal peace, and there are quite a number of weapons inside. Maybe they could be smelted to construct the city in the sky." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said with a smile, "You don't have to care about these troublesome matters. The most crucial thing now is to open the seventh divine treasure. You don't have a house in the capital city, right? Why don't you just stay at my place? When everyone is here, we can help solve your Mother Earth's blessing." Qin Mu shook his head and said, "I have a few houses in the capital city. Linga manages my finances, and she said the housing price in the capital city would rise drastically, so she bought several houses. It will still be somewhat inconvenient for me to stay here. You don't have much money either. Even food and clothing are a problem for you." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor stared with his eyes wide open. Qin Mu bade farewell and called over Celestial Venerable Yu, who was secretly eating the water Chaline's spirit pills. He then called Gongsun Yang over as well. Gongsun hurriedly ran over and whispered, "Have you asked how to conceive a child?" Qin Mu's face turned slightly red, and he nodded his head gently. Gongsun Yang's voice went even softer, as though she was afraid others could hear her. "Actually, I know as well, you could have just asked me. When our flowers bloom, you can just transfer your pollen to me, and a child will be born." Qin Mu was startled. Gongsun Yang stirred the water in Imperial Preceptor's manner with her horsetail whisk, and lifted it up to flick some water on Qin Mu's head. She said seriously, "You have to water yourself more so you can grow faster. When my flowers bloom, your flowers will also bloom, and in that case, you can use your male flower to pollinate my female flowers." Qin Mu was stupefied, and he only came back to his senses after a moment. He said in a hurry, "Fatty dragon, are you still not going? Lan Yutian, are you still eating? When Saintly King handed you to me, you were light and skinny, but now you are like this. He will definitely blame me. He handed me a Celestial Venerable Yu, and I'm returning him a fatty Lan." Qin Mu brought everyone to a manor in the capital city, and he saw that the manor was very huge and serene. There were numerous maids hurrying to and fro to tidy up the manor daily. Linga is truly good at managing finances. Qin Mu was very pleased, and he inquired around. One of the maids said, "Linga would come here occasionally to stay for a period of time, receiving Senior Tiger, Princess, and some other friends. However, she hasn't been by recently. Why is she like me, liking to run around everywhere? Now that the world is in chaos, it's very dangerous." Qin Mu shook his head and arranged the lodging for Celestial Venerable Yu, Gongsun Yang, and the rest. He immediately started to try and open up the parameter divine treasure. The life and death divine treasure was the basis of the parameter divine treasure, and this kind of divine treasure was the simplest. What Qin Mu had to do for the early stage was to design the parameter arc, and the parameter arc was the divine treasure. He borrowed inspiration from the parameter arc in the Great Ruins, and took reference from Elder Messenger of Death's paper boat. The parameter arc was originally a treasure ship meant for heading to Carefree Village. It was designed by Saint Woodcutter, and constructed by Sakura Buddha. However, it ended up being destroyed in the Great Ruins. What Qin Mu saw in this was the ability of this ship to cross the void. On the other hand, Elder Messenger of Death's paper boat could carry humans and souls to cross Yudu, and since the sixth divine treasure was the life and death divine treasure, which was connected to Yudu, Qin Mu used the easiest method. By borrowing the ability of the paper boat to cross Yudu, he could allow the parameter divine treasure to rise from the life and death divine treasure, crossing through the void and flying up to southern heavenly gate. This was the simplest method, because the parameter divine treasure would be constructed in the life and death divine treasure. With a place to borrow power from and for vital chi to gather, it would be much easier to open up. On the other hand, it would be much harder to open it up in the void. It would be very difficult for vital chi to gather in the void of the corporeal body. It was equivalent to opening a world in the void of the corporeal body. Qin Mu still didn't have enough confidence to do so. Among the 7 divine treasures that the 7 celestial venerables opened up, only Celestial Venerable Yu's spirit embryo divine treasure was purely a creation from the void. He had absorbed the energy from the void to open up the spirit platform, which forged the spirit embryo, allowing all lives to have spirit and soul. As for the other 6 celestial venerables, they all borrowed the power of the ancient gods. The 5 elements divine treasure borrows the power of the 5 elements star sovereigns. The 6 directions divine treasure borrows the power from Mother Earth. 7 stars divine treasure borrows the power from the sun, the moon, and the 5 elements star sovereigns. The celestial being divine treasure borrows power from Heaven Duke. The life and death divine treasure borrows power from Earth Count, and the divine bridge divine treasure borrows power from the Dragon Hand Celestial Heavens. Dragon Hand Celestial Heavens Celestial Emperor no longer existed, so there was no power to borrow, which meant the divine bridge divine treasure couldn't be opened anymore. In that case, which god do I borrow power from for the parameter divine treasure? Qin Mu muttered to himself. To open the parameter divine treasure, there had to be power from the parameter divine treasure to be sent back to the divine arts practitioner. Only then was it considered a realm. Among the 7 celestial venerables, 6 celestial venerables had borrowed power. Only Celestial Venerable Yu had peerless talent, and didn't borrow any power. This was a talent that couldn't be surpassed. No matter which god I borrow power from, it doesn't seem like a good thing. Qin Mu pondered hard and suddenly came to his senses. He found Celestial Venerable Yu, and saw Celestial Venerable Yu in a daze. Qin Mu was about to go up when he suddenly stopped. That small fatty lifted up his chubby chin, and there was vital chi swirling outside his body as he opened up a divine treasure. Looking at it with his divine eyes, the spirit embryo in Lan Yutian's divine treasure was gradually forming. Qin Mu's body trembled violently, and he didn't make a sound to alarm him. Celestial Venerable Yu had died miserably. During the abrupt change in the Jade Pool 1,000,000 years ago, all the divine treasures he had opened up were destroyed, and even his celestial palace was destroyed as well. When Qin Mu reconstructed his corporeal body, there was no divine treasures or celestial palace in his body. And now, this fatty celestial venerable Yu had actually comprehended without any teaching. He had reopened a spirit embryo divine treasure by himself once again. The reason why Qin Mu hadn't taught him any paths, skills, or divine arts was that he knew how high Celestial Venerable Yu's talent was, and he wanted him to comprehend it by himself. Celestial Venerable Yu's talent was possibly even higher than his, and even though he wasn't willing to admit it, he still admired Celestial Venerable Yu from the bottom of his heart. He really anticipated Lan Yutian, who had revived, becoming another Celestial Venerable Yu. Now, Celestial Venerable Yu had sunk into a wonderful state of comprehension, so Qin Mu didn't interrupt him. The state of comprehension was very difficult to come by, and it was Celestial Venerable Yu's only chance. This was also Qin Mu's only chance to see how Celestial Venerable Yu opened up his spirit embryo divine treasure. Celestial Venerable Yu was still comprehending, and Qin Mu observed in detail. He gradually comprehended and understood where the power was coming from to allow Celestial Venerable Yu to mold the spirit platform and spirit embryo. That was the power of heaven and earth. It was also the power from his own body. Celestial Venerable Yu, who was comprehending the Tao, was mobilizing the power of his body and the power of heaven and earth at the same time. The feeling he gave Qin Mu was as if he had fused into one with heaven and earth. This didn't belong to that unique comprehension of all things have spirits, and all things have souls from West Earth. This was true compatibility with each other. This kind of talent is truly invincible. Qin Mu sighed to himself, if we were born in the same period, I could only admit myself to be the pseudo-overlord body. He is the true overlord body. However, I'm not inferior. He was rather conceited. To be able to think of 26 kinds of seventh divine treasures, Qin Mu had the right to be conceited. Finally, Celestial Venerable Yu woke up and looked around in a daze. Only then did he notice Qin Mu and said in a fluster, "Brother, when did you arrive?" "I've just come." Qin Mu waved his hand and let him continue to sit. He also came to sit beside him and asked, "You have just opened up a divine treasure. Can you share your thoughts?" "I'm too fat." Celestial Venerable Yu blushed and scratched his head. "When I lowered my head and couldn't see my toes, I thought of training this body of fat away, and so I pondered how I should train. I sensed there was marvelous energy in heaven and earth and also marvelous energy in my body. Afterward, I felt my thoughts becoming clearer and clearer, as though I had done the same thing before, and I easily got hold of it." Qin Mu revealed a smile and said, "You have done well. As for techniques in the spirit embryo realm, do you have any ideas yet?" Celestial Venerable Yu said, "I've seen numerous books on the floor of heavenly records. Can I learn the techniques from there?" Qin Mu shook his head. "You have to comprehend your own techniques." Celestial Venerable Yu asked curiously, "Do other people comprehend their own techniques as well?" "We are different from other people." Qin Mu's expression was solemn, and he said seriously, "We are the overlord bodies. You must remember this, every overlord body is different from ordinary people. A true overlord body needs to create their own techniques, their own divine arts. If you are inferior to others, you are just not working hard enough." Celestial Venerable Yu was solemn and nodded his head in acknowledgement. Qin Mu got up and said, "Think about your technique. I'm also going to open up the parameter divine treasure now." Celestial Venerable Yu continued his comprehension. Not long later, he raised his head in a daze and turned to look back. At where Qin Mu was at, wind and clouds swept over and formed a huge whirlpool in the sky, which was swirling furiously. Darkness spread below the ground from where Qin Mu's room was and slowly spread outwards. That darkness was also swirling as though the land didn't exist. Catcher. Lightning suddenly struck down from the sky and surged on the ground to strike at the house Qin Mu was in. Lightning strikes rained down and shattered that house into pieces. This sight was so shocking, and it was as though the birth of a devil king was met with heaven's wrath. Big Brother is still Big Brother. Celestial Venerable Yu turned back his head and continued to comprehend his own technique. He thought to himself, "He's much stronger than me in guiding the power of heaven and earth. I wonder if he utilizes the power in his body as well." In the center of the lightning strikes, Qin Mu was already using his own power to mobilize the power of heaven and earth with the power of his body. Using the power of his body along with the power of heaven and earth, he started to build a parameter arc in the life and death divine treasure. A majestic-looking arc gradually took shape in the darkness of Yudu. The life and death divine treasure in the darkness had monsters swimming around, and they were sometimes near and sometimes far. It was obvious by opening the seventh divine treasure here, the commotion was too huge, and it had attracted the attention of the monsters. However, the monsters of Yudu couldn't enter the life and death divine treasure of a living person, so they could only look from afar. After a moment, light suddenly shone over, and a paper boat sailed over silently. Elder Messenger of Death carried a lamp and shone over at Qin Mu's life and death divine treasure. When he shone onto Qin Mu, he was stunned and said, "Celestial Venerable Mu, you again. I was wondering what kind of monster would dare to create a ruckus here. Stop messing around. What are you doing?" He suddenly spaced out as he looked at the parameter arc, which was gradually taking shape before coming to an abrupt realization. "You are opening up the 8th divine treasure." Qin Mu's voice came from above. "It's the 7th divine treasure. Celestial Venerable you, wait a moment." Elder Messenger of Death looked upwards, and saw Qin Mu's primordial spirit standing under the builder tree, and above the 6 directions land. He stepped on the stars of the Big Dipper, as he cast his spell. He waited quietly, and after a long while, his parameter divine treasure had finally succeeded in taking shape. Qin Mu's primordial spirit stumbled as it was weak. He only explained after a moment. "I've gotten martial arts heavenly teacher to destroy my divine bridge divine treasure, which means I need to open another 7th divine treasure. Was Celestial Venerable you passing by here?" Elder Messenger of Death nodded his head. "I was passing by when I saw the commotion here, so I came over to see who was creating a ruckus, and it was indeed you. Have you succeeded in opening this divine treasure?" Qin Mu nodded his head and said with a smile, "The primordial spirit can board this parameter arc, and as their cultivation rises, they can control this parameter arc to levitate to the celestial palace. This would solve the problem of the people in eternal peace having broken divine bridges." Elder Messenger of Death said, "You truly know how to play. If Celestial Venerable Yun was still alive, he would be infuriated by you. Where is Celestial Venerable Yu? Since I'm here, I might as well take a look at him." Qin Mu said with a guilty conscience, "Celestial Venerable Yu has comprehended the Tao and opened up the spirit embryo divine treasure. He is currently comprehending his technique. It's better for you not to see him and disrupt his cultivation." Elder Messenger of Death was skeptical and said, "I'll just be looking at him from afar. I'm also not going to disturb him. You will scare people to death if you run out early in the morning, shoo, shoo. Come and visit him after some time. I guarantee he will be as fit as a bull." Qin Mu chased him away, and felt a little relief. If he sees how Celestial Venerable Yu has turned into Fatty Lan, he will definitely demerit me. This won't do. I need to quickly let Celestial Venerable Yu return back to his original shape. However, this fatty is so greedy, how can I make him slim down? At this moment, a familiar voice rang out from a distance away. "Junior Brother Qin, Junior Brother Qin." Qin Mu was delighted and surprised. He hurriedly opened his eyes, and saw an old bull carrying an old farmer into the manor. That old bull spoke in a human tongue and smiled. "Brother Qin, Imperial Preceptor said you wanted to meet Old Master, so we hurried over." On the bull's back, the old farmer didn't have a pleasant face, and his complexion was bad. He seemed to be injured, and he just said insipidly, "What's the urgent matter?" Qin Mu examined the old farmer and said, "Senior uncle, you are injured. Forcibly suppressing the bad blood in your chest will only cause the functions of your body to deteriorate further." The old farmer looked at him coldly and suddenly vomited a mouthful of black blood. His aura wavered for a moment. The old bull jumped in shock and said in a hurry, "Old master, you have been enduring your injuries ever since that battle with Mahakala. Mahakala is no doubt a devil ancestor, his abilities are much higher than mine." The old farmer coughed up a mouthful of blood, but his complexion was much better. "After seeing my abilities, he won't lay his hands on eternal peace recklessly. Worthy nephew, what have you called me here for?" Qin Mu said with a smile, "I've already opened up the 7th divine treasure." The old farmer was delighted and surprised. He asked with a shaky voice, "Is it true?" Qin Mu nodded his head and continued to say, "The reason why I'm in a hurry to meet you is that I want you to destroy the seventh divine treasure I've just opened." The old farmer stared with his eyes wide open and cried out. "What?" Qin Mu repeated himself and said, "I can only open the other seventh divine treasures if you help me destroy it. I have prepared 26 kinds of seventh divine treasures. This current parameter divine treasure is only the first kind. There are still 25 kinds waiting to be tested." The old farmer was dumb like a wood chicken, and his mind was in a muddle. Qin Mu went forward and asked, "Senior uncle, your injuries have erupted." "I'm fine." The old farmer waved his hand and muttered, "I'm fine. I got injured by Mahakala and suddenly felt a pain in my heart." "How many kinds of seventh divine treasures did you say earlier?" 26 kinds, Qin Mu said honestly. The old farmer resisted the urge to cough up blood again, and swallowed it into his stomach. He felt a trace of bitterness in his heart as he thought. 26 kinds, for the past 20,000 years, I couldn't even think of one kind. Actually, levitation with his martial Tao was also a kind of method, but from the start of the founding emperor era until now, he was the only one who could cultivate it. And before the founding emperor era, there was also no existence like him. As martial arts heavenly teacher, the old farmer had put all of his effort on the martial Tao. He didn't understand other things, because he had no other distractions in his heart. That was why he was known as the great emperor of the martial Tao. From the past to the present, he was the number one person in the martial Tao. If he was as active as Qin Mu and liked to do this and that, he wouldn't have the achievements he had today. Focus was the crux of his success. Even though it might be like this, Qin Mu creating 26 seventh divine treasures in one go was still a heavy blow to him. Before Qin Mu had created 26 seventh divine treasures, Xu Xinghua had already created the Builder Tree innate divine bridge, and that was an astonishing achievement. One Builder Tree could connect heaven and earth, merging all divine treasures into one. What was even more terrifying was that it made levitation with his martial Tao even simpler. It allowed Hu Bugui to levitate from the Builder Tree and cross the void to reach the Celestial Palace. Even though the old farmer was reluctant to admit it, he was long convinced by Qin Mu and Xu Xinghua. Today was merely an extra blow to his pride. I hate these people with an intelligent mind the most. They would say I'm very stupid all the time, or that I don't work hard enough. I had merely given it some thought, and here are 26 methods to solve the problem. These are *** holes, just want to write, "I'm smarter than you" on their faces and wait for you to praise them. He had his fill of setbacks in his early years. Woodcutter, scholar, fisherman, every single one of them was smarter than him, making him feel that he was the stupidest among them. This kind of setback had accompanied him for 20,000 years, and he was full of grudges. The old farmer tried to make himself look more amiable, and he said warmly, 26 solutions. In that case, why do you still have to destroy your parameter divine treasure? Qin Mu said, I have only deduced these 26 methods, but I haven't tried them one by one. After testing all of them out, I will choose the simplest one and give it to Senior Uncle. Senior Uncle can then impart it to the martial arts practitioners of bullfighting world, solving their problem of having no divine bridge. Choose the simplest one. The old farmer felt as though his amiable face could distort at any time and turn ugly. He hurriedly calmed himself down and said with a smile, just leave the parameter divine treasure, there's no need to destroy it. Just open the second kind of divine treasure. You can have additional magic power by just leaving it be. Qin Mu was stunned and rubbed his palms in admiration. Senior Uncle is truly smarter than others, as expected of the great emperor of the martial Tao. I didn't think of that. The old farmer seemed slightly pleased as he thought to himself, these smart people tend to waste time on an insignificant problem. However, too many divine treasures in the body makes it messy and distracting, Qin Mu pondered and said, I feel some divine treasures can be taken away. Having extra is a burden instead. Senior uncle, wait a minute, let me calculate if my corporeal body is able to contain so many divine treasures. The old farmer raised his eyebrows and acknowledged. He saw Qin Mu's hands parting, and his vital qi constructed the algebra model of a human body. With a gentle snap of his fingers, the divine treasures rapidly expanded. Qin Mu walked among the divine treasures and examined them carefully. Suddenly, a lump of vital qi flew out and transformed into a cluster of celestial palaces. Southern Heavenly Gate stood tall and upright. Qin Mu used his vital qi to transform into 26 kinds of divine treasures and lined them up. He tried to contain these divine treasures under Southern Heavenly Gate. The old farmer looked in detail and realized he didn't understand anything. He snorted and thought to himself, show off. Qin Mu kept rearranging them, and his eyebrows scrunched more and more. After some time, he kept his vital qi back and shook his head. Senior uncle, your thinking is too simple. If they were ordinary seventh divine treasures, Southern Heavenly Gate could contain 5 to 6 of them. However, Southern Heavenly Gate can't even contain some of these divine treasures. They have been connected straight to the Celestial Palace. I feel having one divine treasure is the best. There's not much use in having more divine treasures. The old farmer continued to maintain his amiable expression and said, in that case, let me destroy your parameter divine treasure first, so that you can continue to study. I shall go over to Imperial Preceptor's Manor to stay. When you open up your second divine treasure, get someone to call me. Qin Mu hurriedly said, Senior uncle can just stay here. Imperial Preceptor has no money, even food and clothing poses a problem to him. Furthermore, I'm skilled in the art of healing, so I can treat senior uncle. I don't need it. The old farmer said stiffly and suddenly changed to a gentle tone. He said pleasantly, your cultivation is more important, I shall not disturb you. Imperial Preceptor has a poison expert called Fu Yuanqing. He is also skilled in the art of healing, he can treat me. Qin Mu said with a smile, Fu Yuanqing is my senior brother, Little Poison King. Even though his art of healing is inferior to me, it's still not bad. He can indeed cure senior uncle's injuries. Since that's the case, I've sent some people to deliver money to Imperial Preceptor's Manor. It can be for senior uncle's expenses for these few days. The old farmer hurried him. Faster, where is the location of your parameter divine treasure? Qin Mu hurriedly pointed out the location of the parameter divine treasure, and the old farmer tapped it without any warning. With a boom, the parameter divine treasure that Qin Mu had painstakingly constructed was destroyed and ceased to exist. Qin Mu's vital qi vibrated violently, and blood flowed down the corner of his lips. The old farmer was about to leave when Qin Mu hurriedly suppressed his injuries and asked, Senior uncle, this halo behind my head is Mother Earth's blessing. Can senior uncle use your martial strength to destroy it? How difficult is that? The old farmer smashed it with his fist, and that halo behind his head shattered. Qin Mu was stunned and praised. Senior uncle's martial strength is unparalleled. The old farmer was also rather pleased, but at this moment, his expression changed slightly. He stared at the back of Qin Mu's head, and saw countless runes automatically rearranging themselves from the shattered halo. Those runes were incomparably fine, and he could even feel that these runes were absorbing power from the land. They quickly returned back to normal. Qin Mu's face also changed slightly, and he stood there in a daze. The old farmer gave another punch, and shattered the halo from Mother Earth's blessing again. However, the halo quickly returned back to normal. Something's strange. The old farmer muttered, and his rough hands grabbed onto the halo behind Qin Mu's head. He squeezed heavily towards the center, and the halo got squashed into pieces along with the Earth Eon Dao fruit. There was an extremely powerful energy inside the Earth Aeon Dao fruit, and if it exploded, it could even blow a god into pieces. Yet only a soft pop rang out between his palms as they were erased. The old farmer let go of his palm, and he saw an extremely faint yellow glow flowing throughout Qin Mu's body. The glow slowly gathered behind his head, and the halo was gradually formed. Not only that, the Earth Aeon Dao fruit that had also been erased gradually reappeared as an apparition. Absorbing the energy from the ground, it gradually transformed from apparition to reality. Not long later, that shriveled-up fruit had taken shape once again. I can't destroy it. The old farmer shook his head and said, both Mother Earth's blessing and this fruit are too weird. Wait for Woodcutter to come and let him study it. Qin Mu sighed to himself and picked up his spirit. Senior uncle, I've one more thing. Do you see that little fatty over there? The old farmer looked at Celestial Venerable Yu and asked bewilderedly, yes, why? Can senior uncle please teach him the martial Dao? Qin Mu beamed and said, you don't have to teach him any profound logic, just the basics, and what the spirit embryo realm can cultivate will do. The old farmer looked at Celestial Venerable Yu and snorted. The flabs on this little fatty are all spirit pills that haven't been digested. This shows that he's really a glutton. His corporeal body and spirit indeed have to be trained by the martial Dao. Leave it to me. I'll make sure he's lean and skinny after some time. Qin Mu hurriedly said, there's also a water Chileen that can't control his mouth. I'll have to trouble senior uncle. The old farmer was unfazed and said, let Sanduo stay here and train him. Sanduo's abilities aren't much weaker than mine. That big horse of yours can also be trained by Sanduo. Qin Mu was overjoyed and hurriedly gave his thanks. The old farmer brought Celestial Venerable Yu away and walked out. Qin Mu hurriedly ordered someone to deliver money to Imperial Preceptor's manor. Prepare some more Great Abundance coins. I can't let Imperial Preceptor's family be too poor. He then found the old bull, and saw the old bull lying in the shade of a huge tree with the dragon Chileen. Each of them had a water pipe in their hands, and there was tea beside both of them. Gongsun Yang was pouring tea for both of them while they puffed out clouds of smoke leisurely. I went to the prairie to fight, he. Mahakala is the devil ancestor of the devil race, a fierce adversity. The old bull bragged to the dragon Chileen. There were countless fierce warriors under him, but they were all defeated under my iron hooves. Only, the old master is weak and got injured by Mahakala. That's right, do you plow? My bones are a little itchy now. Let us go plow several hundred fields after drinking our tea. The dragon Chileen scratched his belly and frowned. I don't have an addiction to plowing fields. Qin Mu walked up with a black face and said, Senior brother Sanduo, bring our Shui along if you are plowing fields later. Where did this tree come from? Gongsun Yang said with a smile, this is my primordial spirit. I feel very familiar with this place, so I planted my primordial spirit down. It's growing rather quickly. Plant your primordial spirit down too. I'll water you every day. Qin Mu stared with his eyes wide open. He raised his head and saw that this primordial tree had already grown over 30 yards. Luckily, this manor was big, so it didn't look too eye-catching. However, this primordial tree was still growing. After a short moment, it grew some more. Let us plant ourselves together, and when we are thick and sturdy, phoenixes will come to find us. Gongsun Yang lifted up the teapot and said with a smile, I'll teach you how to weave a phoenix nest. You can definitely attract phoenixes to come. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head and said, I like to run around and not be rooted to a certain place. Also, I'm not a tree. Gongsun Yang's face dimmed. Qin Mu hurriedly said, when this Earth Aeon Dao fruit is digested, I'll plant it and grow another primordial tree to accompany you. Senior brother Sanduo, please train our shui," and the water Qilin harshly. Nyo San Duo acknowledged and pulled the dragon Qilin along. He called the water Qilin over and walked out of the city. "Let us go and plow several hundred fields outside the capital city first. Let me teach you how to use the martial Dao to relax your bones." The water Qilin was rather respectful of him and said with a smile, "Does Brother Nyo eat spirit pills?" Qin Mu saw them off, and he suddenly felt a cooling sensation on his head. Gongsun Yang was watering him again, and she was very stubborn in wanting to grow a flower out. Qin Mu was helpless, so he figured he might as well sit under her primordial spirit and get ready to open up the second divine treasure. More than 10 days later, he opened up a second divine treasure, and he got someone to invite the old farmer over. The old farmer came in a hurry and punched him once before leaving immediately. 6 to 7 days later, Qin Mu ordered someone to invite him again. The old farmer punched him and left. The old bull stopped him and asked, "Why doesn't old master stay here? It saves you the trouble of running to and fro." The old farmer snorted. "I don't feel good staying here, getting bashed by smart people every day. I'd rather run back and forth. Woodcutter is here, I'm leaving." Woodcutter's voice came from afar, and he said with a chuckle, "Farmer, who is bashing you every day?" The old farmer clenched his fist and had an unpleasant expression. Saint Woodcutter walked over while looking travel-worn. His face was full of smiles and he carried a wood-cutting axe on his back. The black tiger with long ears followed behind him, and his ears twitched back and forth. Suddenly, he saw Nyo San Duo, and his ears subconsciously pointed forward. The next instant, the black tiger got transformed into a little black tiger and scampered over. He called out with an endearing tone, "Third brother, long time no see." The relationship between the old farmer and the woodcutter was very bad, but the relationship between the black tiger god and the old bull was extremely good. He hung around the old bull and called him third brother. The old farmer took a glance at Saint Woodcutter, and he said faintly, "I'll not familiar with the capital city, you are, choose a ditch, I'll send you there." Saint Woodcutter laughed loudly, but he didn't dare to get close. "Don't be like this, we have already been friends for tens of thousands of years. Don't send me to the ditch every time we meet. This time, my little disciple has invited me back anxiously saying that my second disciple has received a blessing from Mother Earth, which is very weird, thus I'm here. Have you seen him?" The old farmer's face softened. "I have. Mother Earth's blessing is truly weird. I punched it several times, but I couldn't shatter it. Even you couldn't destroy Mother Earth's blessing." Saint Woodcutter's expression became solemn. "Looks like it's going to be tricky." Suddenly, another voice rang out. "Senior brothers, both of you are already here." Both of them looked towards the source of the voice, and saw a fisherman carrying a fishing basket with a fishing rod. He also looked travel-worn. Saint Woodcutter said, "Fourth brother is here at the right time. Third brother just told me to choose a ditch and is sending me there." Fisherman said carefully, "If third brother asks big brother to lie in the ditch, big brother can just lie in the ditch. I also can't beat him, so it's useless for you to tell me this." The two fish in his basket popped their heads out and took a glance at the old bull and the little black tiger. They hurriedly flew out by moving their bodies and laid down on the ground to flop around. The black tiger god saw two fish, and he was instantly perked up. His paws shot forward to press down on both of them. Hook, line, and sinker. The two little red fish were delighted, and the male red fish shook his head, causing his head to grow huge. He swallowed up the black tiger god, and only left his black tail to sway outside. The old bull said slowly, all right, stop messing around and spit the little black cat out." That little male fish was too willing, but he still spat the black tiger god out. The black tiger god snorted and took out a transparent fish tank from somewhere. The eyes of the two little red fishes lighted up, and they jumped in immediately. The black tiger god stared at the fish in the tank and kept drooling. However, he didn't dare to provoke them. These two little red fish weren't ordinary. They were two red Quns, two half-gods. They had cultivated alongside heavenly teacher fishermen, and cultivated astonishing abilities. Their magic power was outstanding. Based on pure fighting power, they were no match for the old bull alone, but when both husband and wife worked together, they would be on par with Nyo San duo. The four of us haven't gathered together for quite some time. It's a pity that Donkey isn't here, said that little female red fish, as she popped her head out of the tank. Nyo San duo seemed slightly unhappy and said, he has followed Scholar to Carefree Village and is living carefreely. That donkey has a weird temper and his words are unlikable. He better die in Carefree Village and not come out. The black tiger shifted his gaze reluctantly and said, that stubborn donkey's words are unlikable, and he likes to raise his hooves randomly. As he was saying, the donkey's bray rang out. Woodcutter and the rest were delighted while Nyo San duo, the black tiger god, and the two little red Quns instantly had black faces. The little male fish grumbled angrily, damned old woman, who told you to shoot your mouth off? I'm late. A scholar sat sideways on a donkey, and the donkey came swaying into Qin Mu's manor. Scholar jumped down from the donkey's back and walked towards everyone with her feathered fan. Big brother, junior brothers. When did second brother leave Carefree Village? The old farmer said solemnly with a firm expression. Is founding emperor well? Why hasn't he come out? He's well. Scholar greeted everyone with a smiling face, but didn't answer his question. Everyone hurriedly greeted in return. That donkey swayed his tail and walked towards Nyo San duo and the rest. Nyo San's body tightened up. The black tiger god secretly moved a few steps back, and the two red Quns in the fish tank also forgot to swim. The donkey came to the front of the fish tank, and suddenly stuck his head into the tank to gulp down the water. He soon drank the whole tank of water before pulling his head out. In his nostrils was the two little fish that were flailing their tails. Where's the little fish from? That donkey sneezed and blasted the two little red Quns out before laughing. He spoke with a human tongue. So it's the husband and wife. I'm almost eaten both of you. What are you hiding in the water for? I'm vegetarian. If I ate both of you, won't I have broken my precept? Ang, ang, ang. Brother Nyo. Brother Nyo. That donkey knocked onto Nyo San duo with his shoulder and chuckled. Brother Nyo, nice muscles, my shoulder hurts from knocking onto you, how sturdy. Come to say of it, I know of someone who braises beef skins. You can get it treated from him. I guarantee your skin will be shiny and glossy. He also sells beef and beef tendons. The taste is so good. When I saw those beef, they reminded me of you, wee. Why aren't you laughing? You are too serious. I don't want to talk to you. Little Blackie. The donkey stood up like a human and laughed loudly as he placed his hoof on the little black tiger's head. The black tiger god lowered his head to stare at the ground. He secretly took out two axes behind him and his body trembled. He didn't dare to chop over. Little Blackie, do you still remember the first time we met? You tried to eat mine and got knocked down by one hoof of mine. You laid in bed for several months. I was so elated. The old bull's gaze flickered and cut him off. Lu Zheng, stop talking. Let me introduce two good friends to you. Long Pai, Shui, come over. The dragon Qilin and the water Qilin hurried over and shuddered when they saw this donkey. The donkey came between them and stretched out his hooves. He squashed them with his shoulders that was full of muscles and chuckled. Two brothers, long time no see. The dragon Qilin and the water Qilin's face turned ashen, and the dragon Qilin said with a trembling voice after a moment. Brother Lu, do you eat spirit pills? Under the primordial tree, woodcutter, scholar, farmer, and fisherman surrounded Qin Mu and walked around him. After a moment, farmer stopped in his footsteps, fisherman also stopped. Scholar knocked on her head with her feathered fan, and they all sunk into deep thoughts. Woodcutter examined the halo behind Qin Mu's head in detail, and said after a moment, Mother Earth's blessing is going to be slightly difficult, but this Earth Eon Dao fruit can be plucked down. Scholar hurriedly asked, how to pluck? Woodcutter stretched out his hand and smeared the heart of Qin Mu's brows. Qin Mu instantly felt his primordial spirit falling silent, and his world turned dark, as though he had fallen into Yudu. Woodcutter waited for a moment before plucking down Earth Eon Dao fruit from his halo and throwing to Gongsun Yang, who was at the side. Dao friend, bury this fruit under your primordial spirit and use your roots to coil around it. This Earth Eon Dao fruit is enough for you to allow your primordial spirit to grow into the extent where it would cover the whole capital city in a few months. Gongsun Yang hesitated and said, this is the blessing of Mother Earth, and it's used to raise his cultivation. Woodcutter smiled warmly. Mother Earth is harming him. Earth Eon Dao fruit doesn't benefit him much. Raising his cultivation forcefully will only cause his cultivation to be unstable, and his Dao heart would be damaged. If Mother Earth let this fruit explode with a bang, your little lover will be eradicated. Gongsun Yang jumped in shock, and hurriedly buried this fruit under her primordial spirit, coiling it up with her roots. Fisherman frowned and asked, Big brother, how did you pluck down the fruit? Very simple, Earth Eon Dao fruit only follows him by the breath of his soul. Woodcutter said, I had struck his primordial spirit into Yudu, and caused him to fall into a state of feigned death, that way it would be easy to pluck down the fruit. When I plucked down the fruit, I secretly added some runes into the fruit and changed the structure of its runes. That way the fruit won't continue to chase him. He stretched out his index and middle fingers to tap on the heart of Qin Mu's brows. Qin Mu's primordial spirit returned back to his corporeal body and he woke up. Woodcutter continued to look at Mother Earth's blessing and continued to say, you guys are thinking of how to break while I'm not thinking of break. I'm thinking of add. Adding a portion also breaks the divine art structure that is hidden in the inside of this fruit. Farmer snorted and said, if you put your smarts into cultivation, who wouldn't be convinced that you are the #1 heavenly teacher? Woodcutter shook his head and said, my aptitude isn't good, so I rather not waste time. Anyway, all of your cultivation surpasses me 100 times, you guys can protect me. However, this Mother Earth's blessing is a little tricky. This kind of blessing is the blessing of Tao. It's not born, not erased, not dirted, not cleaned, not increased and not decreased. This makes me hard to start. Qin Mu asked, Teacher, can Mother Earth use this blessing to monitor my movements? Woodcutter said with a smile, giving you her blessing means you are her people. Of course, she can monitor your movements. Qin Mu's complexion changed slightly. Woodcutter said, I haven't completely mastered the runes of Yuanju, so I still need others that are skilled in this area to come. Gathering the intelligent ones, we can slowly research and search for a countermeasure. Don't worry, Sai Yu is skilled in magnetism divine arts. When she's here, I will have 50% confidence in breaking Mother Earth's blessing. Qin Mu was silent for a moment and he suddenly asked, what about the blessing of all ancient gods, including the ancient celestial emperor, as well as Earth Count, Heaven Duke, and Mother Earth? Can teacher break all of the blessings too? Saint Woodcutter burst into laughter. Where would there be such a person to gather the blessing of all the ancient gods? What kind of person has such face and merit to have all the ancient gods bless him? There is. Qin Mu looked at the old farmer and said, Senior uncle, is the little fatty I handed over to you still at Imperial Preceptor's Manor? You say that little fatty. Farmer's expression changed drastically and he hurried away. After a moment, Celestial Venerable Yu was brought to everyone's face, and he secretly sized up everyone. He asked with a low voice, "Brother, has something happened?" After being whipped into shape by the old farmer, during the past few days, Celestial Venerable Yu was much skinnier, and looked more refreshing. He had gotten fat, because of all the undigested medicinal energy from the spirit pills, and since the old farmer was the great emperor of martial Tao, his training could be said to be very harsh. In just a dozen days and more, the old farmer had catalyzed the excess medicinal energy in his body. However, Celestial Venerable Yu seemed to have suffered quite a bit. His posture has also become more robust. When he had lost his memory in the past, he looked slightly timid, but now he had a kind of heroic spirit that was standing out brilliantly. He stood there and everyone circled around him. They looked at the wheels of light behind his head, and they were very extraordinary. The four heavenly teachers had solemn expressions as they looked at one another in the eyes. It's indeed the blessings of the ancient gods, and they are all extremely complete. Scholar pondered for a moment and asked, "Mua, who can receive the blessings from all the ancient gods? What kind of world-shaking merit has he done?" Qin Mu sighed and his face became serious. He walked with wide strides to Celestial Venerable Yu and said solemnly, "I haven't introduced him to senior uncles and teacher. This here is the ancestor of all truths, Venerable of all Tao, the first divine arts practitioner, who had founded the system of divine treasure, the first god that had founded the system of celestial palaces. Lan Yu Tian, Celestial Venerable Yu." The four heavenly teachers' minds were blown and they were dumbstruck. The old farmer stuttered, "WW, what did you say? Who is he?" Qin Mu said to Celestial Venerable Yu, "Good brother, these four here are my teacher and senior uncles." Celestial Venerable Yu was muddle-headed and greeted the four of them. "I pay my respects to teachers and senior uncles." The four heavenly teachers changed their expression drastically, and they hurriedly avoided his greeting. Woodcutter hurriedly tidied his attire and bowed down. "I'm prideful and feel that nobody is worthy of my worship. I use the term Tao friend even for founding emperor, and yet your distinguished self is definitely worthy of my worship." Scholar also bowed down. "Scholar Z, she has never bowed to heaven or earth, but your distinguished self is worthy of my respect." Fisherman and farmer also bowed down and they said solemnly, "Ancestor of all truths, Venerable of all Tao, we ought to worship you. We aren't saluting you, we are saluting to your matchless achievements." Celestial Venerable Yu stood there in a daze and looked helpless. "You guys." Qin Mu revealed a smile and said with a low voice, "Even though many people want to assassinate you, there are still people that are grateful to you. Celestial Venerable Yu, you deserve this." Part 313 and 314 end here. Thank you for watching.